Have you ever heard of the ghost ship found drifting aimlessly on the open sea? Picture this, a massive vessel, completely silent, with food still warm in the galley, but not a single soul on board. It's a story that blurs the line between a maritime mystery and a chilling ghost tale, and it begins with a ship named the SS Vellora. The SS Vellora was a sturdy cargo ship manned by a crew of 32 experienced sailors. When it set sail from its home port, everything seemed perfectly normal. The weather was clear, the sea was calm, and the crew was in good spirits. It was just another routine voyage, but this journey would be anything but routine. Just 2 days after its departure, a passing liner, the RMS Triton, spotted the Vellora drifting erratically. It was moving slowly, aimlessly, like a ship without a captain. The Triton's crew tried to hail the Vellora by radio, but their calls were met with an eerie silence. Growing concerned, the captain of the Triton decided to send a boarding party to investigate. As the boarding party approached the SS Vellora, the silence grew even more unnerving. There were no signs of distress, no lifeboats missing, and no visible damage to the ship's exterior. It was as if the ship was simply asleep. When they climbed aboard, they braced themselves for the worst. They expected to find chaos, a scene of a struggle, or perhaps the aftermath of a sudden disaster. But what they discovered was far stranger. The ship was in perfect order. In the mess hall, dinner plates were laid out on the tables. The food on them, stew and bread, was still warm to the touch. Chairs were pulled out, as if the crew had just been about to sit down for their evening meal. A teapot sat on a stove, the water still steaming, and a cup was found on a counter, halfway poured. It was as if every single person on the ship had, in a single, unified moment, stood up from their activities and vanished into thin air. The boarding party began a systematic search of the ship, their unease growing with every deck they cleared. The mystery only deepened. All personal belongings of the crew were exactly where you'd expect to find them. Watches were left on knit stands, wallets filled with cash were in drawers, and personal letters and notebooks lay open on desks. Family photos were pinned to the walls of the crew's quarters. Even their shoes were neatly lined up by their bunks. It was clear that this was not a case of piracy. Nothing of value had been taken. They checked the ship's systems. The radio was fully operational. The engines were still running, albeit at a low, steady hum, as if someone had just eased back on the throttle. In the cargo hold, the shipment was secure and untouched. Whatever had happened, it seemed the crew had not even considered abandoning ship. The search led them to the captain's cabin. It was as orderly as the rest of the ship. The ship's logbook lay open on the desk. The entries were routine, detailing weather conditions, course adjustments, and engine performance. Everything was normal until the final entry. It was written in a slightly hurried script, dated just 2 hours before the Triton's boarding party arrived. It read, "The sea is whispering again. They are calling from below." The words sent a shiver down the spines of the men who read them. Whispering, calling, below what, who, or what were they? The entry ended abruptly, offering no further explanation, just a cryptic and terrifying final message from a man who was now gone. The mystery of the Vellora took another dark turn when the ship was eventually towed to a naval dry dock for a more thorough examination. Divers were sent to inspect the hull, and what they found was deeply disturbing. Running along the length of the ship, well below the waterline, were 5 enormous, parallel scratches. These gouges were deep, tearing through the thick steel plates as if they were made of cardboard. They were not the marks of a collision with another ship, nor did they match any known tools or machinery. The edges of the scratches were smooth and curved, almost like claw marks. Samples were taken from the grooves and sent for analysis. The lab report came back with a baffling conclusion. The scratches contained traces of organic tissue, but it was unlike the tissue of any known marine species. It was something unknown, something powerful, and something very, very large. But the most inexplicable discovery was made deep within the ship on one of the lower storage decks. In the center of a large, open area, the investigators found all 32 of the ship's life jackets. They weren't scattered or thrown about, they were stacked in a precise, perfect circle. And in the very center of that circle lay a single object, the captain's hat, placed upright as if on display. The deck around this strange arrangement was damp, covered in shallow puddles of seawater. But there were no human footprints. Instead, the investigators found a series of bizarre impressions in the puddles. They looked like handprints, but they were unnaturally long and slender, with far too many joints in the fingers. They were far too large to belong to any human. It was as if something non-human had climbed out of the sea, arranged the life jackets, and then retreated back into the depths. In the end, the official investigation into the disappearance of the crew of the SS Valora was closed, with the cause listed as undetermined. The ship itself was sealed and eventually dismantled, its story becoming a cautionary tale whispered among sailors. No bodies were ever recovered. No further messages or signals were ever received. The 32 crew members simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only their possessions, a warm meal, and a single, chilling log entry about whispers from the sea. The ship was a floating tomb, a silent testament to a mystery that has never been solved. What really happened on that voyage? Were the captain's final words the ravings of a disturbed mind, or did he hear a genuine call from an unknown entity lurking in the ocean's abyss? So, the next time you look out at the vast, dark ocean, think about the SS Valora. It is a reminder that we've explored more of the surface of the moon than we have the depths of our own planet. What creatures might live in those crushing, dark environments? What secrets do they hold? What did the crew of the SS Valora hear that day? And more importantly, what was it that answered them from the deep? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed diving into the unknown, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next mystery.